Dave, what was the first Enfield match you attended?
First one I clearly remember was 1981 against Barnsley. There was games before that, but I was a lot younger then, and they were a bit of a blur.
Why did you come to Enfield in the first place?
My family used to come in the 50s and the 60s, so it's sort of a natural progression. I thought I'd come along and see what it was like. And at the time I was going to Spurs, and I thought, well, this is more local. Let's go see what's happening over there, over at Enfield.
What does football mean to you?
Friendship, friends you make, not just players but amongst the supporters. You know, I've made lifelong friends here, at the old club and here.
And well, what has being a football fan given you, presumably?
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it should be. Our level of football is fun. You're still competitive, you still want to win, but it's not life and death. It is going along with your mates, talking about games you've been to, you know, making the stories larger than they probably were at the time, you know, and just enjoying it. It's a Saturday afternoon, it's fun.
Yeah. Who was your favourite player for the club?
David Howe, centre half, captain of England, captain of Enfield, and probably the best centre half I've ever seen outside the league. Really dominating.
And who was the fans' favourite?
Probably at that time it would have been Noel Ashford. You know, he was special. You know, fantastic left foot. But just for some reason, I like Dave Howe.
What's your most memorable match and why?
Most memorable match? Bishop Auckland away, simply because in the 50s they were the biggest side, bigger than most league clubs, and they were big in the 50s, Enfield huge in the 60s and 70s. We never got to play them when either club was at its peak. So we went up there in the late 90s for an FA Trophy match, and it was just a wonderful atmosphere. Drew 2-2 up there and beat them back at Southbury Road 2-1 on the replay, just because it was Bishop Auckland against Enfield.
Still got the poster?
Yes. And the match ticket.
What memories have you got of Southbury Road?
Probably not so much football related. It's Thursday evenings going down there, working at the club, building things, cleaning things. Obviously, when I went into the shop to help out the guys who were in there at the time, getting involved with that and getting involved behind the scenes, merchandise for the club, making money for the club so it could, at the time, progress, buy better players and things like that. And obviously games do stick out. You know, the night we won the conference by beating Wealdstone in 1986, trophy semi-final against Barrow, even though we lost. It was a big crowd and it was a really top game. I really enjoyed it.
When did you start to change from being a fan to being a committee, a helper at the club?
That would be in 1990, round about September, October time. My predecessor left and the guys in the shop at the time, Jim and Alan, said, would I like to go and help? Went in there, started selling things and got involved from there, buying in programmes for the shop, finding companies who provide other souvenirs and getting involved in that way.
How much of your time does it take up running the club shop now?
Probably during the season, probably 2 or 3 nights a week, either coming down here, checking stock, designing stock, ordering stock, and out of season probably a good solid week just getting ready souvenirs for the following season.
What memories have you got of the finals at Wembley?
The 1988 one, basically, because the car we went in broke down on the way there, and we went in a cab as a group of us. We broke down about 3 or 4 miles outside Wembley and had to wait while we got another cab to get us there. So it was a bit fraught. I mean, sort of, the game itself wasn't particularly great, and the cab we all got going home at about 5 miles an hour, and there was no traffic around. You know, it doesn't have to be football memories, it's just part of the day. You know, the game itself wasn't memorable, the replay was, and that was a lot more memorable.
What about memories of coach travel to the away matches? Anything special?
Yeah, we had, once again, none of them football related. We had our coach driver who had a gun pointed at him at Dulwich Hamlet. Luckily it wasn't a real one, it was an airtight gun, but it shook him up obviously and broke the window of the coach. And we were in watching the game at Dulwich and we could hear all these police sirens outside, and something's happened, and we got back and the driver's shaking, you know, because he was asleep and someone tapped on the window and fired a gun at him. You know, and it's just things like that. going to the longer games in the conference, in the away games, it's just, we had a laugh on the coach. I mean, it was silly things, nothing you can sort of put your finger on. It was just a group of fellas, group of girls who we all knew, just having a laugh, taking the mickey out of each other, getting ready for the game, you know, even having our sandwiches, stopping at a service station, complaining about the prices, which is traditional, and it was just making new friends.
You say your first game was the Barnsley goal. First you can remember is the Barnsley game. I presume that's the one at Spurs.
One at Spurs, yeah.
What do you remember of that game at White Hart Lane?
I remember going there and hearing on the car radio, I think the nicest thing I ever heard about Enfield was Enfield FC are the Liverpool of non-league football, when at the time Liverpool were champions of Europe, best thing since sliced bread, and to be even compared with them, and to be at White Hart Lane that night, 3/4 of a ground, because one stand hadn't been built yet, 35,000 people, hitting the post twice, hitting the crossbar, didn't deserve to lose 3-0, and it was just everyone, supporters from every club in London were there to support Enfield. And I knew it was the right thing for me. They were the right club, and there was a lot of good feeling for them.
How did you feel about losing Southbury Road?
Really, really upset. I mean, it was something special, but sadly we're not the only club it's happened to. I mean, even now it seems strange in the evening driving along the A10 towards Enfield and seeing the lights of what is now the 3G pitch down there, and it looks like where the lights were for the old floodlights. Used to drive there for a game in the evening and see them going down the A10 is something special. To see those lights now, that's the only thing that still rankles with me. You know, because you move on, you do miss it. I mean, I can see in my head now, I can walk around every inch of that ground and remember every part of it.
And what did it feel like leaving the old club behind when Enfield Town were formed?
I think by then, the old club had died. It wasn't the Enfield we knew, and as supporters, we said, no, let's move on, let's start something new, because we were never going to get our Enfield back. You know, it was never going to be the Enfield that we knew, we loved, and we fought for. You know, we'd do anything for, travel around the country for. That had gone. This was an opportunity to start again and build something again, which first 11 years, I mean, look around the ground and what we've achieved in that time, we've done it, and we're still doing it. I'm very proud.
Because how do you reflect on those first 11 years of Enfield Town?
It's been interesting. I mean, say from a club shop point of view, sort of starting up, basically selling a few badges at Southend Manor, to having a little gazebo at Brimsdown selling our stuff, to having a proper shop there and building on. And that's sort of my thing. But that mirrors how the club's grown, from playing at a ground that had nothing but a fence around the pitch to helping with Brimsdown build a stadium there, and then coming here. You know, where we've got a really nice stadium. We've got the best grandstand in the league, you know, and it is nice. We've got our own ground back, and it's a 10-minute walk from the old ground. It's just across the park.
How would you compare the two clubs, Enfield Town and Enfield?
No comparison whatsoever. Enfield FC was one of the biggest clubs you could imagine outside the Football League, and this is what this club should aim for. You know, unless you were there, you don't realise how big Enfield FC was. I mean, league clubs didn't want to play us. I mean, we went to Aldershot in the FA Cup, and there was a bookmakers in the ground, and we were favourites to beat a league club on their own ground. That is something special, and that's what I'd like to see this club do.
And if you could turn back the clock?
If you could turn back the clock, we'd still be watching football over there, obviously, in our ground. But you've got to move on. We can't. You know, we've come this far, and we've got to keep growing this club and make it as much as we can like the old club.
When you first heard about the Enfield Football Tales project, how did you feel about being involved with it?
I'm excited. You know, outside of Football League and Premiership clubs, there's very little you can find out about history of those clubs. I mean, we're lucky with Enfield. There's been 2 books about it, and this adds to it. You know, because it is an interesting story. I mean, Enfield Football Club had been around for a long time and didn't start growing till the 60s and become huge, and it's important that the people of Enfield realise what they had and what they might have again with this club. And it's good. I mean, you know, like yourself, I like the history of football, you know, but there's very little about non-league football histories. It's very hard to find out about clubs that have had a past, you know, and something like this, and it's great that so many school children have been involved in it as well. And so that's the future of our club.
So how important do you think it is that kids do realise there is a football club in their borough
Vital.
that they can come to? Absolutely
vital, because it's a safe environment. You know, you're not going to spend £50 or £60 to sit down or watch your team play. You can come in, kids who come to the games now will come with their parents, they'll have a ball and they'll play football round the ground. and you know, and they get an interest. I say we all got an interest in football. You know, we started out young, and to see so many kids watching the game here now, I think it's fantastic for the future of the club and for football in Enfield.
And where would you hope the club would be in next 10 years?
One step away from the league. You've always got to aim. You've got to aim for the most best you can. You can't stand still. To be a big club, to be playing league clubs in the FA Cup, and to be beating them. That's all you can. That's all you can aim for, and that is the target we should be aiming for. And building the club, not just here but in the community. We've got a very good youth section, a very good ladies section. So if more people from Enfield and the surrounds know we're here and come and watch us, because they'd enjoy it. It is a good day out.
And do you always see yourself being involved with the football club?
Don't know. I've been doing it 20 years now, and it's a long time. While I still enjoy it, and I do enjoy it, I'll do it. If it reaches the stage, it becomes a chore, and it's a real effort to get up and to make the contacts, to get the souvenirs. If I said I don't want to do that anymore, then yeah, I'll go and do something else, or just come and watch games. No, but at the moment, no, I enjoy it too much.